Hey guys, this is Maya from cryptobaecafe, and this is the video that I really wanted to make because this whole tornado crash thing, it bugged me because it's wrong on several different levels, and I wanted to take a very special approach to how I discuss this because I know all people can hear is, oh, well, scammer use it's bad, but I just wanted to point out the flaw with that statement. And basically address, that um, when people start blaming like the negative things in a situation opposed to what allowed this to happen and what led up to this, that becomes a problem. So I'm going to go over the Treasury's Act and read it over with you guys so you can see it. And I'm also going to compare it to a few legal situations in which software was considered an act of free speech. And in that context, that you can't really condemn or ban a software if free speech exists, right? So I just want to prove that, and other companies have fought against this. And I kind of think it looks bad from the perspective of Apple, Google, all these other companies not standing up and saying, like, hey, I understand the theory behind this, but hypothetically, certain companies are liable and at fault in the same context. If when you talk about laundering, scamming, and all that other stuff, every platform in which scammers are able to utilize should have the same legal ramification of the U.S. Treasury sanctioning a smart contract, right? So, if you watch this full video, I thank you because I don't feel like this stuff is clear to people. I think that everyone thinks that crypto is a scam because they don't view it from a software or development aspect. So when you start attacking software developing all that stuff, I get a little touched because that's I do crypto content, I do research, I do freelance work in crypto, but my future intentions is to work as a developer. So to hear that someone was like thrown in jail because he created a protocol and people did X, Y, and Z with it is kind of crazy to me. It's unfitting and it's giving us attack intelligence, and I feel like we live in very strange times where people like to point the finger but don't like to actually understand what's going on, or people listen to and believe anything that they hear. Okay, so I'm gonna get into it in a moment, por favor. Um, so I want to start with the document from the U.S. Treasury. It's very fascinating. Also, I don't understand. So, also another side note, I'm very curious because does the U.S. Treasury have jurisdiction to make a ruling for crypto? If so, where have you been this whole time? Because there's been a lot of financial situations that have happened that could have used some urgency, and you have this SEC doing Lord knows what, suing everyone but the culprits, Voyager and Celsius. So I have to ask. It's wonderful that you thought this was important. Where have you been this whole time? Um, Biggest question, biggest defining question of the moment. So let's just take a look. Okay, so this happened on August 8th. The U.S. Department of Treasury, OFAC, the good old OFAC. So they sanctioned the cryptocurrency mixer. A mixer is essentially, I want to quickly explain, I'm not going to get into it. So basically, deposit you deposit your cryptocurrency, you would receive a receipt of it, and then it will be released to the address of your choice. However, the secondary wallet that the mixer is going to, the other wallet receiving it, you wouldn't see it coming from that wallet, essentially. Um, so as much as people say it's used for hacking, you would want to do this maybe if you're a whale, like what if you're Drake, you wanted to buy an NFT, but you don't want everyone to know your wallet, right? Like you have one wallet, maybe you have two, but like, I think people don't understand this. Decentralization is meant to be decentralized, right? But once we start doing all this social media and this clicky stuff, we're like, oh, like I'm into crypto, here's my wallet address. Okay, you're a target. Okay, so just to break it down, wallet A sends it into the mixer. you get a receipt, and you can't see the receiving wallet. You wouldn't be able to see where it came from. So they know that you deposited it, but they don't know where that wallet's going in that context. Like they don't know wallet. So it's A, B, C. Wallet B is removed from the equation, essentially. And I could probably go in more into that, but I don't want to give people ideas. So I'm not. You can Google it, you can figure it out. But essentially, people would hack, in certain cases, people would hack a protocol, a smart contract, and exploit and essentially shove that money into Tornado Cash. But again, remember, there's other reasons like your wallet has been doxxed, you're a celebrity. Again, your wallet's been doxxed, so now you're a target for hacking. Um, you may not want to, maybe you have a lot of money sitting in crypto and you need to do something with it and you don't want people to know. I mean, there's like sites that do like whale wallet watching, like, and they keep the address. So there's a reason for it to exist in a normalized way. Like what, let's say like you get paid, like I'm a freelancer, right? I haven't received much money. Oh, that's not true. Sometimes I may or may not have received money in crypto. I wouldn't want people to know my developer wallet, right? So maybe I would want to put it through Tornado Cash to send it to my secondary wallet, right? To not make it myself a target. Like my personal wallet and my working wallet I want my working wallet to be private if I'm receiving money consistently from it, right? So that if I ever was like popular or whatever, someone figured out my wallet address, I wouldn't make myself a target. Yes, everything is supposed to be on the blockchain. However, the reasons why we're having exploits is because everything's on the blockchain and people can study and target certain wallets, right? So privacy in that context, having the advantage of digital privacy for a few wallets or such is healthier in certain contexts. And I understand how it's being used. So what they're saying is this includes 4.55 million stolen by Lazarus Group. I mean, that happened. That's a lot of money. It is used to launder more than $7 million worth of virtual currency creation since 2019. This group was sanctioned in 2019 and apparently created the largest known virtual currency heist to date. Tornado Cash was subsequently used to launder more than 9.6 million of malicious cyber actors' funds derived from June 28th. Today, action is being taken pursuant of Executive Order EO 13694. It sounds like Star Wars executive. Ugh. Okay. OFAC. May 6th. Today, the Treasury is sanctioning Tornado Cash with a virtual currency mixer that launders. It doesn't launder. It's not laundering itself. Someone launders money. They are launderers. They're exercising a protocol the same way someone would run a Cash App scam, the same way someone would steal money via Apple Pay, the same way people use different processes to launder money. This is just something they use. It doesn't mean that the item itself is a bad actor. Are banks bad? Yes, they're bad. But like, are banks bad because people can do check cashing scams on them? No. It's just the scammer's ability and today's technology and people who are smart, crafty, and conniving who have figured out how to use it to their advantage. So today, the Treasury is sanctioning Tornado Cash, a virtual currency mixer that launders the proceeds of cyber criminals, including those committed against victims in the United States, under the Secretary of Treasury of Terrorism and Financial Intelligence. Despite public assurance otherwise, Tornado Cash has repeatedly failed to impose effective controls designed to stop it from laundering funds from malicious cyber actors on a regular basis without a basic message to address this risk. Okay, so now you're putting pressure on a non-government smart contract to stop people from shoving money into it. Do you put pressure on banks, Cash App, other like? No, you try to have a team, but like at the end of the day, I think it's lazy because it's like, okay, well, it's your job to identify the bad actors and then go after them and keep tracking every wallet that interacts with them and remove them and find their IP. Like, there are ways, they're just lazy. And all I'm saying is that attacking one smart contract does not start it because anyone can go spin up a new privacy protocol. So you're just going to spend your days sanctioning different smart contracts. It's not a solution, it's a band aid on a gushing wound. You stop it by having like mandates for security, having mandates for audits before things are published within cryptocurrencies, getting crypto insurance, making platforms and protocols have some form of insurance. That's another issue. Why don't y'all have insurance? It's getting ghetto out here. How do you have like 500 mil to $1 billion and you don't have insurance for the users, for yourself, for your platform? Like, okay. So Treasury has worked to so Treasury will continue to aggressively pursue actors against mixers that launder virtual currency for criminals and those with system. The Treasury has worked to expose components of the virtual currency ecosystem like Tornado Cash and Vendor.io that cybercriminals use to obfuscate the proceeds from illicit cyber activities and other crimes. While most virtual currency activity is illicit, it can be used for illicit activity, just like cash, just like credit cards, just like debit cards. Just saying, including sanction invasions through mixers, peer-to-peer exchanges, darknet markets. What is that? Oh no, okay. In exchanges. It includes the facilitation of heist, ransomware schemes, fraud. Ransomware has existed before. Ransomware will always exist. If it wasn't crypto, it was stealing your debit card. So again, this is not enough for them to go out and sanction this. This was an attack on digital privacy. Like all the things you're hearing already happened with fiat, debit cards, and credit cards. How's that working? How is the Anti-Money Laundering Act working to stop that? Oh, wait, it still happens. So the Treasury continues to use authorities against malicious cyber actors in concerts with other U.S. departments and agencies, as well as foreign partners, to expose, disrupt, and hold accountable perpetrators and the persons that enable criminals to profit from cybercriminal activities. For example, in 2020, the Treasury's Financial Crime Enforcement Network, FinCEN, whatever, assessed a $660 million civil money penalty against the owner and operator. Why? What do you guys do with this money when you like sue these protocols? Tornado Cash is a virtual currency mixer that operates on Ethereum blockchain and indiscriminately facilitates through, um, anonymous transactions by obfuscating their origin, destination, and counterparts. So it removes visibility from A, B, and C. You can see the initial interaction with it, but again, like origin A, destination B, and counterparties C, with no attempts to determine their origin. Tornado, yeah, because it mixes all the transactions at once, so you don't know like when and where, why. Tornado receives a variety of transactions and mixes them together before transmitting to the individual recipients. While the purported purpose is to increase privacy, mixers like Tornado are commonly used by illicit actors to launder funds, especially those stolen during significant heists. Tornado is being designated pursuant of EO 13694 for having materially illicit sponsored provided. I guess it's because they receive a fee for every transaction, right? The same way a bank receives fees from deposits and accounts. Again, you're not. I just. Um, okay, so having materially assisted, sponsored, and provided financial materials and technology support for goods and services and support of cyber-enabled activity originated from or directed persons located. So virtual crime mixers that assist criminals are a threat to U.S. national security. Treasury will continue to investigate the use of mixers for illicit purposes and use authorities to respond to illicit financial risks in the virtual currency ecosystem. Criminals have increased their anonymity-enhancing technologies, including mixers, to help hide the movement of origin funds. Additional information on illicit financing risks associated with mixers and other anonymity-enhancing technologies in virtual ecosystems can be found in the 222 National Money Laundering Risk Assessment. I'm pretty sure it's very helpful. Those in the virtual currency industry play a critical role in complying with their anti-money laundering and countering the financing of terrorism. Oh my God, they're so dramatic. And sanctions obligations to prevent sanctioned persons or other illicit actors from exploiting virtual currencies to undermine U.S. foreign policy and national security interests. I think people are literally just trying to pay their bills with that. As part as the effort, cut that out. As part of the effort, the industry should take a risk-based approach to assessing the risks associated with different virtual currency services, implementing measures to mitigate risk and to address the challenges anonymity features can present in compliance with AML/CFT obligations. As today actions demonstrates, mixers should be generally considered as high risk by virtual currency firms, which only process transactions they have appropriate controls in place to prevent mixers. Blah 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 blah. Sanctions implications. As a result of today's actions, all properties and interests in the properties of sanctions implications. So, as a result of today's actions, all property and interest in property of the entity above Tornado Cash is that the United States or in possession of control of U.S. persons is blocked and must be reported to OFAC. In addition, the entities that are owned directly, indirectly, 50% or more, when blocked. So, what this means, and I think this is the thing that really pissed me off. Okay, so so basically, what I'm grasping at, if someone who has a pool like decentralized pool is with Tornado Cash, and they put their money in the pool. Like, oh, I can't put it in Tornado, so I was using Tornado, I dump it in the pool. Um, yeah, that's gonna get blocked. So if you're in a pool with someone who's sanctioned or is added to this list, what does that mean to you? So in addition, any entities that are owned directly, indirectly, 50% or more by one black persons are also blocked. So it's like you're blocked by association. So what if everyone in the world right now receives 0.01 ETH? Are we all blocked? Like we're blocked? Does anyone? Never mind. All transactions by U.S. persons with or trans to the United States that involve any property or interest in the property of designated otherwise blocked persons are prohibited unless authorized by a general or specific license issued by OFAC. What is this? See, you gotta read these things. They be sneaking some weird stuff in. What license are you gonna give me to interact with a sanctioned smart contract? And why would I be asking for a license from OFAC to interact with that? You ban us and then you provide a license to access it? Okay. This prohibit this prohibits to making any contribution or provision of funds or goods or services to or benefits by any block person in the receipt of any contribution to provision of funds, goods, service to any person. The power and integrity of OFAC sanctions derive not only from OFAC's ability to designate or add any person to the sanction list, but also the willingness to remove the person. So you can get removed. I've never heard anyone saying anything about removed. But that's another thing. It's like, okay, so legally, there needs to be due process. I feel like they're making up things when it comes to regulation. Like, has a court order been filed? Is there an investigation? Like, the ultimate goal of the sanction is not to punish. That's a lie. The ultimate goal of the sanction is not to punish. Well, locking all your funds in a smart contract with no estimated time, that sounds like a punishment. Imagine you had like 1 mil in USDC and someone like randomly sends you something and now you're on a sanction list. That's a punishment for, yeah. But to bring positive change in behavior, not a creepy phrase at all. I guess there's a way to get removed. That was depressing. Okay, so I want to go, now that I've gotten that, I want to go to this statement. So, as you know, a few days later, in the Netherlands, which is surprising because I don't know how. So, I always talk negatively about how the U.S. is, handling regulation. I had no hope. But I had no hope that the U.S. would do right by us. No hope at all. No hope. But it was doing better than I thought. And then now this is just like, oh, I was right. They're gonna, you know. Okay, so they arrested the developer, Tomato Crash. He was arrested for writing code. Um, A man was arrested for writing code that served as a public good for people maintaining their privacy online. They put a man in jail because bad people used open source code. And that's another thing. This code is open source. So I can copy the code. I'm not going to do that because I have interest in doing other things. But someone can copy that code and make a new front end and back end and make another protocol. I think that's what people who are developers are saying. Like, well, someone else can just make it. Like, they can just keep making different smart contracts, and someone can, you know what I mean? Like, we can play this game for the end of the century. You need, again, with crypto, you need to turn the internet off if you really want to play this game. And then again, that's get into some tricky territory when you start doing that type of stuff. Um, so, so yeah, I don't feel. Uh, yeah, I feel like it's right. So now I want to go. So Apple has had this debate, right? Like, so let's go back to the premise of free speech, right? Free speech means that like I have the ability to say what I need to say, communicate what I can need to communicate, as long as I'm not like harming and offending others or like causing harm to others. I have the right to say what I need to say. So in that same context, software is included in the right of free speech because it is by proxy free speech amalgamated to tech. And there have been numerous. So, case one that establishes software as a code of freedom of speech is Bernstein versus Department of Justice, a landmark case that resulted in establishing code as speech and changed United States export regulation with encryption software. Now, aside, the this country has had a bad. The reason why we didn't get cryptocurrency sooner is because I think in the 80s they didn't like it. Like they were like, no, like we're not doing it. So this has been an ongoing battle. It's cute now, but like the U.S. and encryption and like encryption software, they don't like it. So I think this is funny. Um, so the case resulted in the establishing code of speech and changed United States export regulations on encryption software, paving the way for international e-commerce. Fascinating. Um, Daniel J. Bernstein, a Berkeley mathematician and PhD student who wished to publish an encryption algorithm he developed, a source code for a program to run an algorithm, and a mathematical paper describing and explaining the algorithm. At the time in the early 90s, the US government designated encryption software as munition to be regulated. Guys. So, in the early 90s, the US government designed encryption software to be munition to be regulated for national security purposes, with no intensive export restrictions based on a lenity of fear-mongering and techno-ignorant reasonings. Glad that things have not changed. Wonderful, fascinating. The law required Bernstein to submit his ideas and register it as an arms dealer. That's why they're mad, because they're mad that all of this is open source. They're mad. The developers are like, "Ooh," and we're just like putting out code and we're like designing away and we're like monetizing on our own. This makes them pissed off because it's hard to tax that. Also, okay. So the law required Bernstein to submit his idea, register as arms dealer, and apply for an export license to merely publish his work online. Why would you ask for so much for merely software, for merely ideas? Infuriating, the State Department also warned him that they would deny him a license if he actually applied because his technology was too secure. So the EFF assembled a crack legal team in February of 1999 sued the U.S. government on behalf of Bernstein. Not only did this regulation chill the speech of individuals like Daniel Bernstein, they hampered American business by limiting the export of encryption technologies and methods. Then, as is now, the EFF saw the importance of protecting speech online and the necessity of encryption to building the web with privacy and security protection. The court eventually ruled that export control laws on encryption violated Bernstein's First Amendment rights, yes, by prohibiting his constitutionally protected free speech and leading to regulatory change that made it easier to publish encryption software online without the approval of the U.S. government. Along the way, Judge Marilyn Hall Patel in the North District of California issued the first judicial first ruling that found that the code is speech, code is free speech, and it is protected by the First Amendment. The court can find no particular meaning differences between computer languages, particularly high-level languages that define above in German and French, like musical and mathematical equation. Computer languages is just languages and it communicates information either to a computer or those to read it. And seeing us out, even though if I write a code to communicate to computer developers such as I or myself will have to learn to understand it, right? So hypothetically, it is a form of speech, even if it's not within the English dictation. But sometimes it is in English and parts of it are readable. I have to type in I have to label something. I have to type in what I'm labeling that uses English vernacular that is a part of speech. So today it may seem obvious that communication using programming language is protected by the First Amendment, but before this decision, no judge formalized the principle in a ruling. Bernstein helped pave the way for growing use of encryption that makes web browsing activities like banking and shopping more secure, and its recognition of code as speeches has helped build the legal foundations for online rights, being recognized as offline ones for EFFers. This case resonates because it's important. One of the amazing. Yeah, soft code is free speech. Uh, and then in this case too, for Apple, oh god, this is gonna be ugly. So the FBI basically was trying to force a software engineer at Apple to write a line of code to unlock someone's phone. So Apple filed a motion last week to vacate a court order obtained by the FBI to create a special computer code to unlock an iPhone used by San Bernardino attacker Said Razin Farouk. One argument in Apple's motion is that code is a form of speech and force code for the government and amounts to compelled speech and viewpoint discrimination in violation of the Constitution. So I feel like we're so afraid of crypto regulation that everyone who's in DeFi is like, okay. And I think that's what a lot of people are saying. Listen, we get it. You're compelled, you're worrying about the fate, but constitutional rights apply to crypto. And I feel like because the SEC has done such a poor job at establishing merit and basis and is such on this like regulation by enforcement tip that we're in this situation. Rights, human rights do exist in crypto. For software developers, for investors, for crypto holders, they do exist. They just haven't. We haven't acclimated them into the rules of crypto because there's still legal precedents to be formed. I just want to reiterate that. I think we're like scared, but actually like we have rights. And this has been something that this has been an ongoing battle with encryption, with tech, with IP rights, with this has been a never ending battle, and I think it's very important for us to reiterate the same precedents that code is a form of free speech, and by sanctioning a smart contract, you are basically saying that a smart contract created by a human is not allowed at that same right of free speech, even though it is merely a coding language. So one argument in Apple's motion is the code of free speech and forced code from the government amounts to compelled speech and viewpoint discrimination in violation of the Constitution. The same way I feel that the U.S. Treasury sanction and now is putting pressure on other DeFi protocols to be AMFL compliant and create some type of front end thing that recognizes the wallets as well. So it's like on top of that, now you're forcing DeFi protocols to be the enforcers of the situation, when in reality, you guys, that's something you got to do your job. If you're so concerned about it, you track the wallets down. You stop them. You identify them. You pull the wallet. You know what I mean? Like you've already been doing with USDC before this incident. USDC was already blacklisting wallets on the behalf of whoever and whomever. So please, do. It probably took too long. And that's the real issue I have. I think they were doing it that way. And they're like, oh God, can someone else do this? And this is what we're going through right now. So, in a prepared testimony, Apple counsel Bruce Sewell that giving the government a tool to unlock iPhones could weaken the security of hundreds of millions of Apple devices. While the lower courts have ruled that computer coding is speech, Apple's argument enters thorny legal territory, experts said. Code is written primarily to communicate to machines. Andrew Crocker, software historian at the Electronic Frontier Foundation, compared source code to other technical forms of communication like sheet music or mathematical equations. Programmers write code to have computers do things, but other people can read that code because it has comments in it. Uh, Said corporate foundation followed core papers to support Apple. Just because you and I don't understand it doesn't mean there aren't some people that do. Programmers will tell you it's the right way to write code. There's cool code, elegant code. It is a form of communication separate from or alongside from the instructions for the computer. It's pretty clear that there are certain types of speeches you can't compel. The government can't compel you to voice the support of Republicans and Democrats in some type of belief, but you can compel a private company to put a warning label on its product. So it can be conditionally permissionable in certain circumstances. I see where he's going, but I still say no. The computer in the car that deploys an airbag, for example, is a code compelled by law. Indeed, the case for broadest form of Apple's argument is taken. It can make computer-based transactions subject to heightened scrutiny under law. The Supreme Court has consistently found that this self-expression is necessary for the First Amendment protection. Benjamin said, "When I send oil through a pipeline, even if it's intended as a message of some sort, is a substantive expression that a recipient can understand. I have not done something that's communication." Parker said an Apple's argument is successfully used in other court cases involving encryption. For example, he noted in the Ninth U.S. Circuit of Appeals ruled in 1979 that source code is protected by the First Amendment. And read again for the third time. We're going to keep repeating it. Source code is protected by the First Amendment. Okay, so in that case, Daniel Bernstein, yes, we just talked about this case. And we did, and he won that case, right? Because again, they keep doing the same thing. The government's argument was encryption should be limited because it's a tool to use to conceal communication of terrorists, drug smugglers, and others intent on taking U.S. facilities, personnel, and security interests. That's literally always their excuse. Terrorists use it so you can't. Like, no, like that's not true. Stop saying it. Um, okay, so to be sure, Apple's First Amendment claims are secondary to its extensive criticism of all rights like the law that is the crux of the case. All while proceeding to carry in court, society is left to rest the implication of this case, including the Bill of Rights. So what happened? Okay. Who is this? But wait, if it's closed source and you do something outside of the source code, isn't that illegal because you're violating the close? Like, from the beginning, we objected the FBI's demand that Apple build a backdoor into the iPhone because we believe it is wrong and would set a dangerous precedent. As a result of the government dismissal, neither has this occurred. The case should have never been brought. This is crazy. We will continue to help law enforcement the investigation as we've done all along. We'll continue to increase the security. Like, we're going to add more security to job of our products that threat. Oh my god, that is so rude. Mm-mm. How do you sue someone to change their software, lose a lawsuit, and then basically hack their... So, okay, so they know that code is engraved with the concept of free speech, correct? So they're basically ignoring us. And I feel like we're getting into a very scary space because again, what it's like the reverse is Wade. We have laws, but then we're just gonna like ignore them sometimes. So that's the rest of the situation is more than frustrating. So now I'm just gonna compare. So apparently, 2 billion has been sold from DeFi platforms in 2021, right? We had hacks, had bridges, and I'm just gonna say this because I'm aware. Mostly it's because these developers, myself included, we're worried about how something works. We worry about like, how do you interact with it? It's functional. How is it? So we're doing all of this. And then you have a second theory where like security comes involved. And the way this space is moving, I'm not making excuses, but I can understand why it happens. Because even myself, as I'm learning to develop and I'm coding and I'm trying to build something, getting through this process is crazy, right? Because I'm learning and I'm building. And then you got to remember, oh, wait, people want to rob me and steal from me. Like, so, and I think that's because we are such in an ideological state where we just want to build and connect and like create right now, right? Like that's the state of crypto and DeFi right now, right? So when something gets hacked, it's not because the developers. Sometimes developers are like they don't like because it's like there's other white hackers that are looking at the code as well, looking for flaws because they want to help. Like, that is literally someone's job in crypto. Like, look, read smart contracts, read the code, go through it, test it. People, there's like bounty bugs. Like, people do this every day. So what I'm trying to say is sometimes these things happen because of lack of the developer skill set, but also there's a lot of money going into the look, design, and feel of it, and not enough money being spent on security, auditing, and protection. There's not. I obviously see that from so many things. Also, that developers work like freelancers for these large projects is another issue. I think developers should be staffed and salaried around the clock because things wouldn't happen if they were. And sometimes it's like they either pay them $100 an hour or something crazy. But I really think they need to be salaried and on staff, like around the clock to, when these exploits happen, they're like, oh, cut the cord. We're going to stop this right now. And that's why you've seen a lot of protocols do like, oh, we've hacked, but we found, you know what I mean? So again, it's just like however their system of command from development is set, and you don't know. Again, it's decentralized. I don't know how everyone sets up their team. I have no, we don't know. So that's another reason. And also some of these protocols, they do get audited. Like the Nomad hack, that happened. They were audited previously and told not to publish their smart contract. So it's a lot of those things happening where like people were told about, uh, gaping holes and flaws within their code, and they went ahead and did something anyway, and then were hacked. That's their fault. I'm sorry. It's like you guys know how much money is sitting on these protocols, these bridges. You need to have some sense of security. You shouldn't have to lose it and be at risk for you to understand how important security, integrity, and making sure you guys are impenetrable, you're unhackable. Because at the end of the day, there's someone on the other end looking for these holes, and they're not always white hackers. Well, 9 times out of 10, they're not. That's when I say when the government's like, oh, everyone's malicious. I said, no, everyone's looking for an exploit. Some companies or decentralized organizations need to be focused on security, and they're not. And that is one of the truths. Not every protocol, and again, it's not their fault. For some people, it's their fault because they have more than enough money and resources. They're just not doing it. But also, like I've heard that auditing is very expensive and not cost effective. So maybe it's like build your own auditing team within your platform. If it's that expensive, like you know, you can sit here and say, "Oh, it's too hard. I don't have it," or you can just figure it out and stop your platform because a lot of people, not everyone's going to come back from a hack, and everyone's going to be able to lose at least like 80% and be able to come back, and people still use that platform or protocol. It's not going to happen. So now that we're talking so much about crypto, let's talk about how much money is laundered in other things because everyone seems to forget that how much money is laundered in the US. Yes, let's refresh that because everyone's so pressed about crypto. Let's get some bucks out. Approximately 300 billion is laundered to the United States each year. 300 billion. Yeah. So you're worried about. So how much in crypto? 2.2 billion? Not saying it's okay, but let's just do some numbers. 300 billion. In the words of a great Ice Cube, you should check yourself before you wreck yourself. Okay? Because in 2020 alone, global banks were hit with $10.4 billion in fines for money laundering violations. So money flowing like water to the scammers through the banks. Capital One was the largest American bank filed, ordered to pay $390 million for failing to report countless transactions. Money laundering schemes cost 2 to 5% of the world's total GDP. And money laundering in the US makes up to 15 to 38% of the money laundering globally. So we're getting robbed out here the most, and you're worried about little crypto. Okay. All right. All right. It's like a mom that gets married right after coming out of a divorce. Focus on yourself, baby. Just focus on yourself. Okay, so between 800 billion and 2 trillion in anti-laundering. Oh, I'm gonna just keep 91 of the money laundering offenders are being imprisoned. Despite 91% of money laundering offenders being imprisoned, 99 and that statistic sounded stupid. Despite 91 okay, that statistic sounded stupid. Despite 91% of money laundering offenders being in prison, 90% of money laundering crimes go undetected. How can 91% be in prison if 90% of it's undetected? The math ain't mathing. Okay. While the 91% imprisonment rate is high, it neglects to address the fact that there are very few cases of money laundering crimes. Yes. So again, like we're gonna go into the PPE thing. How I think whatever they're gonna do to fix it is stupid because the money's gone. Fun fact: everyone's bought a giraffe, a Ferrari, probably crashed it. Um, Gucci, you can't get that the Birkin bag that someone bought for their mother back, right? Like that 200, I'm not much there, 300 grand is spent, right? So look at it. Look at the percentages of money laundering. Fiat versus Bitcoin. I love this chart because it shows that you guys are making such a big deal about something that is just like, like you're making such a big deal. You're trying to say, and they've done this all the time. Like, everyone uses crypto to scam. Not as much as they use cash, baby. Not as much as they use cash. What are y'all doing with this money? Okay, so now that we know that, there is probably like 300 times more laundered in fiat, so they're hardcore crackdown on, I don't, whatever excuse they have, they need to focus on themselves. There's still a lot of issues in the traditional financial area that allows the bots on social media apps that have the ability to like hack. Y'all need to focus on that because in every comment section on Instagram, and then all of my friends that I've had seen their pages hacked, focus on the things that you can control. I always tell people that focus on what you can control. Trying to blanket arrest people for some form of control is going to help the situation. Okay, so we've seen that. However, that was weird. Oh, and the PPP. So I thought there was only 8 billion. 8 billion? It's 80 billion. And I'm going to say this to you. So that whole situation is crazy because people had to turn in fake tax returns for their fake business with their name attached. Why were they allowed to turn in all this stuff with their name attached and still process it? If you leave a bag of money outside your house and someone steals it, whose fault is that? Is it the robber that was going to rob? Or is it the stupid person that left all this money out? Uh, I'm not encouraging thievery, but I'm also not encouraging stupidity. This this application, whatever processes the government plays to have them processed, whatever process the government had in place to review the documents, there was no form of correct coherence because so many people got these loans. And the amount of them that were going out, they were in the amount of 100K, 200K, 500K, 1 million. And you guys can't even account for this money. Focus on yourself, baby. You guys are worried about a smart contract when there's a lot more issues going on in our centralized financial world. That's all I'm saying. Um, yeah, 80 billion versus 2.2 billion since 2021. Just focus on yourself. Anyway, so, and then again, I just want to also point out another thing. So, this is my tweet of the day to conclude this video is Celsius CEO is still free and rich and still has access to his wallet, by the way, and is using it because for some reason that wallet was active last week when I checked it. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Find out. Voyager CEO is free and rich. I don't know who Sufu is, but he's free and rich too, stole something. Do Kwon is free and rich and giving interviews from his apartment. And so people who have actually committed crimes and laundered on various platforms with customer deposits, they are not sanctioned. They are not blacklisted. Actually, Alex Krasinski's wallet is not blacklisted. Why isn't his wallet blacklisted? You're going through a bankruptcy, shut down the wallet. You don't need to access those funds at the moment until everything's been accounted for. But the US Treasury didn't issue a sanction for this man's wallet. So is it really about the concern of laundering? Or is it just to play a little financial god control? I don't know. I don't know, but I don't think this man should be in prison. I definitely don't think he should be in prison. If he should be in prison, everyone, whoever developed Cash App should be in prison. Whoever developed banks should be in. We all, should, you know what I mean? Like you can't start playing these games. Start get really to dangerous territory when you start punishing people for things. Then it's like okay, why don't you send people who make cars? Cars crash into people. So whoever, if you make Teslas, Teslas catch on fire. Teslas can drive into someone. Should Elon Musk be in jail? Like let's this because it sounds crazy to me. Let's just bring up all the other scenarios where you're saying the creator of something because someone has used it in a dangerous way deserves to go to jail. I don't believe in that. So I hope this could help you guys understand like why I think this is entirely insane. And obviously, yes, I don't think committing DeFi crimes is cool. Like that's not awesome. It doesn't do anything in the space. And this is the worst time to be doing any of these crimes, you guys. Like there's no good time to commit cyber crimes, right? But this is like the worst because we're going through so much regulatory scrutiny and like everyone's on high alert. It's inflation, market's weird. Why are you acting weird to me? Like it's just a weird time, you know? But at the same time, I don't feel like it calls for this. And this isn't the solution. The solution is actually tracking those wallets and finding that person because I think there needs to be something where people, no one fears fear because you guys do stupid things like this. You do blankets instead of like looking for the people committing these crimes, tracking their wallet, finding the group, taking up, taking out the group that's because they're not afraid. They don't fear you guys because you don't make actual interest to seeking out bad actors. You're too ready to ban things, blanket statement, say you can't do this, but you're not doing the work of looking for the people committing the crimes. You're just blaming everyone else but the actual people. And that's the problem. Okay, so thank you guys for listening to this 40-minute rant. Thank you guys for watching this episode. I am happy to explain this. If anyone has any questions, please leave them in the comments. I would love to discuss the situation further. Yeah. And be safe, be blessed, be safe. Okay, thank you guys. Bye.